Well, there's been no shortage of mistakes and gaffes on the campaign trail. But in this campaign, liberal media elites are not treating these candidates equally. Far from it, in fact. Much of the national liberal media, in fact, has been hammering Governor Sarah Palin for her so-called gaffes. They have all but ignored the blunders of Senator Joseph Biden just days before Thursday's vice presidential debate. Lisa Sylvester has our report, Fair and Balanced.
There's been plenty of blunders on the campaign trail. This one from Senator Joe Biden.
When the stock market crashed, Franklin Roosevelt got on television and didn't just talk about the princes of greed.
Wrong. Franklin Roosevelt wasn't the president during the stock market crash. Herbert Hoover was. And in 1929, Americans didn't watch TV. They listened to radio. Here's another one. Biden sounds like he's going to take down his own running mate.
I guarantee you, Barack Obama ain't taking my shotguns, so don't buy that malarkey. Don't buy that malarkey. They're gonna start peddling that to you. I got two. If he tries to fool with my Beretta, he's got a problem.
Senator Biden's gaffes fly under the radar of mainstream media. But Washington Post and CNN media critic Howard Kurtz says Governor Sarah Palin's seem to be magnified.
There's a tremendous disparity between the coverage that Joe Biden and Sarah Palin are getting. When Biden makes a mistake, it is nowhere near the big story that's endlessly repeated the way it is when Governor Palin does so.
Newsweek editor and CNN analyst Fareed Zakaria wrote a sharply worded editorial that Palin wasn't ready to be vice president, a point he reiterated on CNN.
It's not that she doesn't know the right answer. It's that she clearly does not understand the question.
But Palin's defenders say the liberal elite media is being plain nasty. And Sarah Palin's approval rating as Alaska's governor is a strong 68%. Because she has something that counts with voters.
If you look at Sarah Palin, she's not a career legislator. She's a real person who got involved in politics, and I think most Americans look at her and can more identify with Sarah Palin than any of the other candidates running for federal office.
Sarah Palin said quite confidently that she's not only ready but willing and able to serve as vice president, and she has a message that resonates with voters. And keep in mind, Lou, as governor of Alaska, she actually has more executive experience than any of the other candidates in this race. Lou?
I think we can say it. All three of them, including John McCain. It's fascinating that there is this just venomous, venal, petty, nasty response on the part of the liberal national media to Sarah Palin. I mean, whatever her shortcomings, and we all have them, my God, it is so unfair, so obvious in its bias that the national media, there seems to be no limit to what it's willing to do to attack this woman.
Well, there certainly have been a number of these interviews, and the McCain campaign says this is essentially gotcha journalism where they're trying to put her on the spot. Yeah. But we have seen that in some cases that's even backfired. You know, cases like, for instance, the passport. You know, she came out and said, you know, lots of Americans don't have passports and can understand her answer, which she said, look, I was working 2 jobs. I wasn't backpacking through Europe at the time. So she really does have a message that resonates with those voters.
Yeah, you know, I wonder about this, but as you reported and as we're documenting here, the fact is, my guess is that Joe Biden's gaffes, mistakes, blunders, I have to outnumber hers by somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 or 6 to 1. Does that seem like a reasonable ratio to you?
Well, I can tell you there are a lot more of these gaffes of Biden that are not necessarily being reported. Another one was, for example, where he said he was in Iraq and he was essentially fired upon several times, shot at, I think is the way he phrased it. Well, then later on, you know, the campaign cleaned it up a little bit that there were shots fired near him. So a number of those things like that. But they're not necessarily reported, Lou.